Ladies and gentlemen, we are in. Hello and welcome to another episode of The Balance Breakdown. Once again, I am your host, Harry Powell, and I am joined by my good friend, Mr. E. Spencer Kite. Sir, how are you?
I'm well. Little warm. It's Harry Powell weather here in Abbotsford, British Columbia. I apologize to the listeners that hear my air conditioner in the background, but piss on the lot of ya. I'm not sweltering for this show.
Yeah, fair enough. I will be doing my best in post. So if you can't hear that, fair play to me. I've done a great job. We are here first and foremost to talk about an absolutely gigantic event that took place this weekend. We will also talk about Cory Sandhagen fighting Umar Nurmagomedov. But before we get there, the one, the only, the most prolific SevereMMA footballer that we have in this here organization, Mr. Number 9 himself, Mr. Ian O'Neill, married his wonderful wife this weekend, back in the island of his birth, the greenest greens that you can ever imagine, mixed between a severe amount of frothy black pinted liquids, and if you're Sean Sheehan, some strawberry daiquiris thrown in there as well for good measure. We want to, between myself and Mr. ESK, congratulate Mr. and Mrs. O'Neill on a what looks like amazing wedding. Some beautiful memories to be made, and when Ian is back in just over 3 episodes time, we will hear all about it. So from myself, from obviously all of the audience, from Mr. Spencer himself, a massive congratulations to the newlyweds. Just an amazing achievement for both of them, and obviously we wish them the best and the best on their honeymoon also, Spencer.
Up the O'Neills.
Fucking up the O'Neills, absolutely. All right, so let's get us into our bit of fighting that we watched over the weekend. 13 bouts to this card. I think overall, I'll just very quickly brief us in. Umar Nurmagomedov, Cory Sandhagen was just an absolutely fantastic fight from start to finish. I really enjoyed it. Very high level, very close fight. Umar Nurmagomedov gets the nod there. Shara Bullet versus Michał Oleksiejczuk. Got fight the night for some reason. But it was a fight that happened, and we will talk about it at some point. Davis and Figueiredo looked absolutely fantastic versus Chito Vera in their performance. Michael Chiesa, Tony Ferguson. We'll talk about that. Tony Ferguson gets the nod via submission, rear naked choke. Mackenzie Dern, Lupe Godinez looked pretty good. Would you have a note there?
You said Tony Ferguson gets the nod, and that surely did not happen.
It didn't happen. Michael Chiesa, I apologize to you, fine sir. Michael Chiesa wins via rear naked choke. Maybe that was my heart speaking there. It really was. Mackenzie Dern gets the nod over Lupe Godinez via unanimous decision. Joel Alvarez is going to be the subject of this week's Severe Spotlight. We are recording this a little early this weekend. We're recording it on a Sunday rather than on a Monday, as Ian and I usually would. And so the Severe Spotlight is not out yet, but it will be by the time that this is in your ears and faces and eyes and things. Azamat and Murzakanov just decimates Alonso Menafield, frankly, over 2 rounds. Caio Fernandez looks great against Mohamed Yahya. Shamil Gadziev walked into a cage and Dontel Mays fell over a lot of times. Goran Kutateladze versus Jordan Vucenic was a fantastic fight, one we will certainly dig into. Obviously, here at SevereMMA, we were big on Jordan Vucenic from his Cage Warriors era, and we are still big on him now in his UFC era. Sam Hughes won what I didn't think was a split decision at all against Victoria Dudikova, and we'll talk about that. Jai Herbert looked great against Rolando Bedoya in what we had dubbed a must-win for both men, and Jai Herbert certainly fought that way. And then Cedric Dumas did some things against Dennis Taylor, and we probably won't talk about that at all. So I'm just going to throw it over to you immediately, Spencer. What was your immediate read on the card? What was your read on the fact that it was early for you? You got to have some breakfast and watch some fights. General thoughts on the main event also.
Love an early start. Love sitting down and watching fights at 9 a.m. Being done by about 3:30 in the afternoon. It's wonderful to then have the rest of the evening to myself. Unfortunately, my wife and I scheduled it out pretty poorly. She had some work engagements, so we didn't actually spend time together, which just meant the whole day was, solo time, but fine. I was excited for this card, obviously, as we had talked about on the preview show. A bunch of names that I was interested in, Jordan Vucenic, and then the entire main card to me was interesting, save for the old guy fight that we will talk about. overall, I mean, to close, it feels like as of late, we've had a couple of these cards where it's trudging along and then we get some excitement and it kind of reinvigorates things into the main card. So through the first 3 fights, kind of started to feel a little bit like, oh, this is going to be one of those cards, isn't it? Guram Kutateladze, Jordan Vucenic is a entertaining fight. We have another slowdown with the heavyweights, but then we get Cowy Fernandez, then we get Azamat Murzakanov. You head into the main card where it opens with a guy with a 100% finishing rate, and we're just off and rolling. And for me, it was really enjoyable. I really enjoyed this card. I like the way that they are putting a little bit more effort into some of these events. Obviously, this one being in Abu Dhabi, I think they have a bit of a mandate to make sure that they bring big shows and good cards. And obviously, it's going to be populated with various fighters, either from that region or with ties to that region, which means we get guys like Umar Nurmagomedov, which means we get guys like Shara Bullet, who, like him or not, is somebody that is interesting right now and worth paying attention to at this point. And so for me, this is a lovely way to spend a Saturday, especially when you put it in comparison to what is on the horizon. And, you know, listen, I'm always the guy, you know this, the listeners and watchers and viewers know this. I'm the guy that'll find something entertaining about just about every fight card. And this had a lot of stuff that entertained me.
Certainly. So the main event was something that I thought was, it was obviously the diamond of this card, irrespective of what happened underneath. 135 pounds is, in my opinion, the best division in the UFC right now, and has been for a little while. I know that you've held a similar opinion, and certainly Shawnee and the other guys have a similar opinion also. But when you put together somebody like Cory Sandhagen with all the context, all the team change, the evolution, the timing, all this sort of stuff, and then you put him against somebody like Umar Nurmagomedov with that styles matchup, with that undefeated record on the line, with the corner that he has, all of this stuff, it's just an absolutely brilliant main event. And we sort of spoke about it on the Severe setup about how this was not only just a amazing fight inside the octagon, but it was going to be so interesting to see how the teams pre-fight and then during the fight started to oscillate their fighters and move their fighters around like the chess pieces that they are in order to try to get the victory from their fighters. And I mean, you mentioned that you offline, you mentioned that you were excited to share your thoughts here. I'm actually going to start with you. What did you think, if you take me briefly round by round through how you saw the fight, what you liked, what you didn't like, and equally how you scored the fight?
So I tweeted in the very first round, the first wrestling exchange where Cory Sandhagen was able to get up and then strip grips rather quickly, that is important and very meaningful for Cory Sandhagen, because that's what he was going to have to do all night in order to stand a chance. Still may not mean he wins, but that's just step A towards not getting blown out. For me, going through it round by round, I have Cory Sandhagen in the first, I have Umar the rest of the way. That being said, it is a close, competitive fight. These aren't rounds where it's like, absolutely no way can you make a case for Cory Sandhagen in some of these rounds. I think Cory Sandhagen looked so good in a losing effort that I actually feel quite bad for him. I had a conversation with my guy, Sean Madden, this morning about it a little bit, and just kind of, Cory Sandhagen feels like a guy to me now that has missed his championship window and is now stuck being kind of the number 3 through 5 in this division, because there's just some guys like Umar that he's not going to beat. And we saw against Petr Yan a few years ago, he just can't get there. And now maybe he can. He's 32. This was his first fight with Trevor Whitman. Maybe they do some reworking, but it's very much it has to be pretty damn soon. And it feels like losing that fight to Aljamain Sterling years ago when he was on the ascent sort of made him have to reset a little. Not a full step back, but a half step back, right? He had to come back and beat Marlon Moraes and beat Frankie Edgar to get back into that championship mix. And I just wonder if the timing were different, if he had kept that run going, gets through Aljo, do we see a different reality, a different timeline where Cory Sandhagen wins the title as opposed to being the guy that is, you know, come close to it once, been in that mix for the last 3, 4, 5 years, probably remain in the mix for the next 2, 3 years, but probably not get it. And then there's the entire conversation we're going to have about Umar Nurmagomedov as well.
Yeah, so firstly, it feels as though Cory is kind of, right, and just hear me out, is kind of like Dustin Poirier in this, in that he has done his absolute best to maximize the skills that he has. He has obviously improved, right? The defensive awareness in the grappling elements were so crisp and so clean in this fight. He has made leaps and bounds of improvements in those areas in this fight camp. Make absolutely no mistake about it. I thought that offensively, he looked really, really good. Defensively, in a striking realm, he looked really, really good. I think there was only really one mistake, and that was in the 5th round. When he concedes bottom. And even in that position, he's doing his best to land elbows from the bottom and scramble and get back to his feet and do the things. And so, you know, I agree with you in that in a losing effort, he loses very little stock. If anything, it just adds to his stock, but elevates Umar's stock even more. And, you know, we'll talk about Umar. For me, I had Cory through the first 2. I think, Umar was pretty clear 4 and 5, and 3 was just really, really close. It was just really, really close. And I just scored it to Umar. I watched the 3rd again and I scored it to Umar twice, which generally means that's kind of my opinion. Sometimes I'll watch around a swing, or what I call a swing round, again and again and again. I might score it one way, then the other way, then the other way, then the other way, but I scored it both times to Umar. I'll talk a little bit about the technical nuances that I saw. So Cory in the first came out and tried to push the pace, right? Tried to land the low kicks, tried to work the body, tried to show Umar that he was not going to be fearful of throwing kicks because he was so confident in the counter grappling. And Umar, obviously, as we know, we've seen littered throughout his UFC career, he is somebody that is very, very, very dexterous. He is excellent with his kicking arsenal. And why wouldn't he be, right? He's so confident in his own grappling, counter grappling, defensive grappling, that he's happy to throw kicks at any range, at any dexterity, at any level. I thought Cory did a great job at landing on the lead right leg when Umar changed southpaw. And there was a moment in the 4th round where Khabib is screaming at Umar to change back to southpaw so that he can land the switch left. And as soon as Umar changes, Cory just smashes that right leg, and Umar has to change back, right? So I thought that was a really interesting wrinkle as we developed through the fight. I thought Umar in the 2nd round did a really good job of trying to counter Cory's forward pressure, but Cory did a really good job of monitoring the hands, hand fighting as they stand, really doing a good job of rolling off, ducking under, defensively grappling super, 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 super well. As we started to move to the 3rd, I thought that Umar started to find that check left hook, and Cory really couldn't find an answer through it throughout the next 3 rounds. Cory tried his best to then switch his style and maybe take a step off and wait for Umar to go. But the moment that happened, the momentum really started to swing and Umar started to build. And so Cory had to come back and really step on the gas in 5, because 4 was, you know, a tougher round for him. But I don't know, other than having devastating one-punch knockout power, I really don't know what more Cory Sandhagen does through those first 4 rounds. He defended the back so well. He forced back body locks and stripped so well. He ground beat at the perfect times. He was defending him. Like Umar was looking for a twister in the first, and Cory was having none of it. Umar to put him back in the truck the 2nd round. Cory was having none of it. It was just such a beautiful display. And there were moments of frustration etched across Umar's face, which was, why is this guy not accepting the positions like everyone else? Why is this guy picking up a single leg so he can smash me with a left hand? Why is this guy not just going away? And that was a question that I had going in. You mentioned that we were going to have a conversation about Umar Nurmagomedov. What do you take away from Umar from this performance?
So first, I just want to address the Cory thing a little bit. There was a moment in between one of the rounds where his wrestling coach, Carrington Banks, just says to him, like, dude, you're defending all of this wrestling. Like, you got to go. You're okay on the ground with this dude. And it feels to me, watching it back and thinking it through, like there's a little bit of just that hesitation, understandably, of this guy's going to wrestle and I don't want to get out wrestled. So I don't want to get wrestled into oblivion. So I have to be a little bit more, it's sort of the inverse of the way Umar fights, right? As we talked about, Umar can do whatever he wants because if you want to take him down, if you want to wrestle, he's super confident. Cory feels like, because he was so aware of the wrestling, his offense was a little bit hesitated, a little bit holstered, and he just needed to go. In terms of Umar Nurmagomedov, I think we're looking at the best bantamweight on the planet. Like, I hate doing that ahead of time. And I had a tweet on Saturday about Dakota Tacheva and how we need to just like let people progress and get there. Well, Umar just clean sweep Cory Sandhagen. So I would say he's here. He's officially a contender. He should most likely be next in line for the winner of Sean O'Malley and Merab Dvalishvili. I would love to see him against either of those men, and I would favor him to beat either of those men. And so I think this guy that we have been talking about as a future contender and potential future champion showed us on Saturday that all of that hype is validated, is justified. There's still room for him to continue to get better and be even more effective. But he's 6-0 in the UFC. He's 18-0 overall. He just beat Cory Sandhagen. And to me, he's the best bantamweight walking the planet.
It's very possible. I mean, I think the real shame for Cory Sandhagen, just to flip-flop back just slightly, is I think he is favorite in both matchups against Merab Dvalishvili and for me and for Sean O'Malley as well. The style for somebody like Merab, where Cory, there was one moment, right, at the end of the fourth round, and it ended in front headlock, and Umar Nurmagomedov was on top. And the moment the fourth round bell went, Cory pops up immediately pops up to his feet. Umar's just on his knees, taking a breather, like kind of looking a little deflated, a little sunken. And Cory pops up, bounces back to his corner. And I'm like, oh, this guy knows what's happening. Like, that's a big power move. And there's cardio for days there. The range is there. We've seen the grappling from him now. And I think for somebody like Merab, where he is shorter, stockier, that's a really tough matchup. For somebody like Sean O'Malley, we've seen that Cory can also grapple, right? The length, the striking, the variety, all of that stuff. Sean O'Malley is somebody that waits. He's a sniper. Like, I think the volume that, even in this fight, the volume that Cory Sandhagen showed would be a tough stars matchup for Sean O'Malley.
This is where the timing of it all, right? As I said, this is where it's just matchups and timing and who you're ready, who you're available for, and who's on top of the ladder when you're on your way. Like, it sucks. There's probably 3 or 4 matchups where this dude just goes and wins the title and we're great. Like, but now he's in the spot he's in.
And it could be, right, that he gets a Michael Bisping where he's ready. Umar, Sean is booked, or, it won't be, he won't get the call if Merab falls out or whatever. But like Umar, Merab is booked. One of them falls out. Cory steps in. Here we are, world champion. Like, that's possible. But anyway, for Umar, I kind of agree with you, right? Like, I think if I was to be super, super nitpicky, I saw a little too much reliance on the backhand shots and not enough setup with the jab. I thought Cory's jab was very cultured in this fight throughout the entire 5 rounds. And Umar's kicking game was obviously stupendous, but I need to see, or want to see, a little bit more on the feet than just the vast, beautiful array of kicks and the clean right hands. I don't just want to see leaping left hooks. Or check left hooks. I want to see jabs. I want to see him being able to demonstrably push people back in a method that allows him to set up everything else, right? A lot of the takedowns were based on countering Cory's shots, moving Cory, forcing Cory to have poor footwork. And that's all, like, that's 95% of everything you would want from a striker and or from a guy looking to shoot on moving their opponent around. However, I want to see the 5% added. I want to see the complete Umar Nurmagomedov. And maybe we see it, maybe we don't see it. He obviously has plenty of time and is a fantastic camp in order to do that. But man, I don't see many holes. I really don't see many holes. I really don't.
Well, and like this was, and they talked about it. I will give the broadcast crew of John Gooden, Daniel Cormier, and Paul Felder credit. They talked about it in this fight of the different things that sort of stack up on Umar at times, right? And Sean Madden and I spoke about it this morning as well. Between Khabib, himself, and his brother, there's something like 64-0. And so every time you walk out there, you don't want to be the dude that gets the first loss. And then when you're Umar, you're the next one in the UFC, and you want to follow in Khabib's footsteps. You want to have the same. He spoke about it in all the, prepackaged video stuff going into it. I want to, same as him, retire on top, undefeated, all of this stuff. Well, you're only 28, man. You got, conservatively 4 years, 5 years for sure that I think we see you. That's a bunch of fights, and they're all going to be really tough ones. So you've got that pressure. Then it's his first main event. And it's his first main event where even though he's listed as the B-side, the focus is on him. They were in Abu Dhabi because he is who he is, and he has the relationship and the fame and popularity that he has in that region, as his cousin did before him. And yet he still goes out there, and despite biggest step up in competition and a massive step up from who he faced in March, and even really a massive step up from a guy like Raoni Barcelos, who was his best win previous to this. And it's, as you said, there's some frustration. You could see it throughout the fight that there's certainly some frustration of, Jesus, this dude is good and he's not going to quit and he's not going to stop. And what more do I have to do to just get him to go away? But it doesn't deter him. It doesn't lead to, and now I'm frustrated and lose the fourth round. Now I'm frustrated and make a dumb read and get cut and bleed all over. He still just goes out there and wins the fight. And so I think, and my saying he's the best bantamweight on the planet is not a knock on Sean O'Malley at all. I think the world of Sean O'Malley. I think he is a terrific fighter. I think it's a super interesting matchup. I think the same of Merab, and I can't wait to see that fight. But I just look at the totality of what this young man brings to the octagon, the people he is surrounded with, the depth and breadth of his skill set. And I just look at it and go, we talk all the time about if plan A doesn't work, what do you got for plan B? Well, he's got plan B, and he can alternate which of plan A is plan A and which of plan B is plan B based on the opponent. And so that alone gives you a leg up on a lot of people. And then when you factor in, maybe he's also got some dog in him, where if A and B don't work, you've spent a whole lot of years in really hot, gross gyms getting manhandled by your cousin, going round after round after round with your brother and everybody else that's in that room, where we haven't had to see it, but I guarantee you if that kid gets pushed, there's some tenacity to him as well. And so, I mean, we're gushing, I think rightfully so. This was a not quite star-making performance, but that moment that confirmed for everybody that has thought all along that this kid is the genuine article, that he is in fact the genuine article.
Well, let's dry the tap all the way up on that gushing, and let's talk about the co-main event. So Shara Bullet Magomedov and Michał Oleksiejczuk were awarded Fight of the Night. Shara Magomedov wins, in my opinion, all 3 rounds. Argue that, maybe there's a close round in there with Michał Oleksiejczuk's bodywork, but over and back, I think what we're looking at here is Shara Bullet hits very, very hard. He is able to maintain a very intense velocity in his strikes throughout 3 rounds. Not great in the takedown, getting picked up and thrown around a little bit by somebody like Michał Oleksiejczuk is something you definitely need to look at. And, in the post-fight press conference, I know don't listen to this, but he turned around and said, I don't want a grappler next time. I'm like, big man, you don't know who Michał Oleksiejczuk fucking is if you think that man's a grappler. But I wasn't impressed by either men here, really. Like, it was a gritty performance from both. Both fighters dealt a lot of damage to the other. I was impressed with Michał Oleksiejczuk's ability to cut his face and have it look like God of War on one side minus the hair. That was grand. Fair play to him. I don't have much good to say about this fight. What do you think? Can you save it?
I don't know if I can save it. I think, to me, this is a moment where we just need to be realistic, right? We just need to be honest about things. This was a middle of the pack middleweight fight. Nothing more. And I don't know. I mean, we've seen enough of Michał Oleksiejczuk now that we know that's where he resides. Permanent residence, no plans of moving, no plans of going anywhere, maybe moving out of the UFC now that he's lost 3 straight, but we'll see. And as far as Shara Bullet, like, okay, you beat another dude that you should beat on short notice. And it was a clear win. There was no part of me, or shouldn't have been any part of anyone, that thought maybe he didn't win. But you got taken down 3 times in 5 attempts by Michał Oleksiejczuk. And then you turn around and say, I don't want a grappler next. That dude ain't a grappler. There's some grapplers in this division that, I made the case on Sportsnet of just, see what Rodolfo Vieira's up to. Like, let's just see, right? Let's see what this dude does. And maybe Vieira's too far up the food chain in terms of grappling, but Gerald Meerschaert's around. Let's see what Gerald Meerschaert can do. Because if you can't stuff those takedowns, now obviously Gerald Meerschaert has a fight coming up, but you know what I mean. And so it's just sort of like, I don't get the buzz. I don't get the hype. I don't get the infatuation. I have no idea how this was fight of the night outside of it being on the main card and looking for a way to reward this guy for jumping into a fight on 2 weeks notice that, was a favorable. I mean, Goran Kutateladze and Jordan Vucinic was the fight of the night. Like, it just was. Clearly, like, without question, it was. But I'm, again, as I often say on shows with you, if I'm behind the big desk and I'm making decisions, I'm testing this dude. He was wise to come out and say, Nick Diaz, let's go. Like, he understands how to play this. Listen, Nick Diaz ain't going to Abu Dhabi. There's a reason Nick Diaz didn't make it to this card. He ain't going to make it to the October card in Abu Dhabi. He ain't going to make it to many cards outside of California, I would bet. And so if it's me, I give him a real test. I give him somebody, even if it's somebody like Gregory Robocop Rodriguez, even if it's somebody like Brad Tavares who needs a fight now that his fight with Jung Hyun Park a couple weeks ago fell off. Just somebody that's a little better, that's a little more established, that has a few more tools, that has a little bit more savvy. Because let's see, maybe I have to change my tune. But for right now, this is just a dude. And until he shows me something other than being able to outstrike guys that are just going to walk into shots and be available for shots, I'm not changing my opinion.
I have 3 names for next for Shara Bullet.
Let's hear them.
If you want to go very favorable on the feet, but if it goes to the ground really, really bad, may I offer you Paul Craig? If you want to feed him to the fucking lions, may I offer you a one Jack Hermanson? If you want to go a bit balls to the wall, and the UFC will never do this, but I would love to see it, may I offer you Bo Nickel?
So, ironically, I kind of fell somewhere below that because I was like, they're not going to, I don't think that they're going to do the let's just go crazy.
Oh, they are.
I don't think they're going to do like a Jack Hermanson. I think they are going to try to continue to manicure. Like, yeah, I will be surprised if Shara Bullet is not the opening fight of the main card at UFC 308 when it returns to Abu Dhabi. And it'll be against Jacob Malkoun. It'll be against Andre Petrosky. Where, listen, if they get into the grappling, then maybe but they got to get there first. And Petrosky isn't great at getting there, and Mamba has some struggles getting there. I also he's tailor-made for fighting Cody Brundage next, right? It's going to be one of those. And I like Cody. He's a good dude. I had a great conversation with him in Denver, but he's just that dude, right? He's going to say yes, and he's going to go out there and see what he can do, and it's not going to go well. And they're going to protect and manicure this for as long as they can, as much as we both want them to be like, nah, fuck it, let's go. Because Paul Craig would be great. Paul Craig is the absolute correct shout. A guy that is infinitely hittable, certainly beatable, but you are dead to rights if you go to the ground. I would love to see it. I don't think it happens. I think Joe Pyfer is going to get his wish and fight Paul Craig later this year. But yeah, that would work for me. But I think it's going to be somebody far less exciting than that.
It's very possible. I will move on to Deiveson Figueiredo versus Marlon Vera. Well, this was a tale of two fights, right? One in that Deiveson Figueiredo just looked fantastic, took the fight down in round one, looked great in doing so. In round two, stayed on the feet, looked good, fighting some takedowns, just outworked Marlon Vera. We know that Deiveson Figueiredo hits very hard. Lovely stamp kicks to the lower abdomen. Lots and lots of really nice rib roasters outside of clinch exchanges and these sorts of things. Marlon Vera then looked okay in the third round, where he really had to step the foot on the gas, and Figgy looked a little bit more tired than he did in the first two, but it certainly wasn't enough to swing the fight in any way, shape, or form. I like Deiveson Figueiredo at 135. I do think he is a little undersized as we get to the upper echelons. I mean, if you put him in against somebody like Cory Sandhagen, let's just say, I think the size difference is going to be really, really demonstrable. But whilst he is there, it's really enjoyable to see him fight smartly and not have to just go out and be like, I'm a heavyweight fighting at 125 and just throw, 17 shots around, but they're all there to try and absolutely send your brain through a cinder block. For Marlon Vera, it's just the same story, right? Where in spurts, he looks really, really good. And there are elements of him that look really, really good. And when Jason Perillo gets in his ass and says, look, what the fuck, here we are again, 10 minutes down, you're losing 2 rounds. Can you go out and actually try and throw some things now? And he goes out and throws some things. He looks pretty fucking good doing it, One technical thing I want to say is one of the main weapons for Marlon Vera when he hits the ground is he likes to lock up a close guard. And then he often goes with an overhook, and then he extends his spine back, almost dragging his head across the canvas, and then he looks to land big downward elbows on his opponents. If anyone heard that bang, that was me elbowing my desk by accident. I apologize. And he lands those big elbows, and they cut people up real bad, right? And immediately when Deiveson took Chito Vera down and looked to lock up a close guard, he took thumb down inside armpit grips. And I thought that was an amazing read and such a good development strategy for fighting somebody like Marlon Vera, where you're like, actually, he doesn't mind getting taken down because he thinks he has this tool in his armor box, which is that he can go over hooks and he can immediately start landing. The benefit of going thumb down grips is that your elbows are fled out towards the sky, rather than if you go thumbs up, it is easy for Marlon Vera to pummel in over those elbows and start to break them down and land shots over the top. But Figgy went thumb down, which vaults those elbows up real high and makes it very hard for Marlon Vera to come up over the top. 1, to strip grips, and 2, to land the elbows over the top. And Figgy then moved from going that thumb down grip to obviously then just coming in and cutting elbows immediately. And I thought it was just such a brilliant little nuance. And that was something that I really took away from that specific fight, other than the rib roasters and the things we already talked about. Thoughts on the fight?
I really like Deiveson Figueiredo at 35. I talked to him before the fight and asked him about, we're seeing a different version of you in this division. We're not seeing the headhunting. We're not seeing the crazy power. He, of course, alluded to, the power's there and I can still, and all of this. But yeah, I want to show some of the he's a different fighter in this division, wisely, correctly, understandably. And it's great to see that other side of him, because he's doing things as you just described, he's doing technical things well. He's doing strategic things well. He's making all the right decisions. And that's really interesting to see. I do agree with you that he's probably sort of now kind of topped out because kind of the matchups, right? Like he should probably ascend to number 4 in the division, having beaten the current number 4. Cory Sandhagen's a bad matchup. Petr Yan is a bad matchup. Rob Dvalishvili is a bad matchup just because he's going to wrestle you. Sean O'Malley is a bad matchup because he can be at range and you're short. And so this is probably as high as he gets. But for a guy that had an outstanding career at flyweight, 2-time champion, is in his mid-30s, trending towards late 30s, and is now 3-0 in the division, like all props in the world. Shouts to you. Probably deserves a number 1 contender fight next. I don't know who it's going to be against, but he's right in that mix. And if he had gone out and done what he had told me on Tuesday or Wednesday that he wanted to do, which was knock out Marlon Vera, and he put Vera on his ass, one of the few guys in the division that has actually put him down.
First ever, I think.
Then maybe he would have gotten it, right? Like maybe he goes out and does enough for people to go, okay. I'm not the right guy to ever talk about Cheeto because Cheeto frustrates me to no end. Like just a guy that I look at as you have all of these weapons and you constantly dig yourself into a hole. And I just don't understand it. And it's always after the fact of, man, I really should have. And maybe I came out today and said, maybe I came back too quick after a great big war and a title fight. My brother, I love you. I respect you. I appreciate everything you do in the octagon. That fight with Sean O'Malley wasn't a war. Sean O'Malley whipped your ass because you did what you did on Saturday. You kind of let him dictate everything and picked sporadic places to use your weapons and had to have Jason Perillo urging you on in the biggest moments of your career. And so maybe you did come back too soon, but I don't think it's because your body wasn't ready. I don't think it's because, I think it might just be we're hitting that mental part of this is as high as I can climb and I don't know what to do right now. I think there's room for him to figure out the what to do right now part. To me, it's just go. Like it's just, we got to find some way to get you throwing more and get you more active and more aggressive instead of looking to counter, instead of throwing 2 or 3 shots. Because as you said, the weapons are there. That the length of his kicks and the power that he has in his kicks, the variety he can offer in his kicks are all great. To me, he's just the quintessential pull the fucking trigger. Like, just go. You have to go. And Figueiredo read it, played it, and executed perfectly on Saturday.
I agree. We're going to move on to the sad old man fight. And look, let's not spend too much on the fight itself. I think instead we should celebrate both fighters rather than look at the display that we had on the evening. I'll just wrap up that display relatively quickly. Both men looked as though they walked into a fist fight and then remembered what actually happens in a fist fight, and they didn't actually want to be in a fist fight. Both of them, I think, looked like, obviously they're moving like professional fighters. They're moving as in patterns and rhythms that you would expect of professional fighters. But both of them looked gun shy. Both of them looked like when they were throwing shots, they were kind of looking away and kind of not really knowing where those shots were going to land because they didn't really want to throw them with 100%, but they were tense and they were a bit wooden, and everything did throw with almost 110% power just because if it does land, I fucking hope I knock him out and then I haven't got beer anymore. And then there was one clinch exchange and Chiesa just absolutely ragdolled Tony Ferguson, picked him up with a back body lock, dumped him down, took his back and choked him almost immediately. And on the preview show, we sort of mentioned that if it was going to go this way, and this was kind of the way that we expected it to go with Chiesa getting his hand raised, we hoped it would be like this. We hoped it wasn't going to be 15 minutes of just bludgeoning. We hoped it was going to be a clean submission victory, that no damage was dealt to both guys. And thankfully, I think we did receive that. Tony Ferguson left one glove in the octagon and then proceeded to throw the glove that he was supposed to take home just in case he fancied coming back into the crowd because somebody asked him to do that, which, you know, it's just perfect Tony Ferguson, frankly. But I think offline we both sort of talked about hopefully this is the end of the road for both guys, not just Tony Ferguson. Instead of giving thoughts on one, retirement, two, you know, the fight itself, can you just speak a little on one, Tony Ferguson as a fighter and your memories of him, and equally Michael Chiesa and your memories of him?
So, I mean, Tony Ferguson to me is just forever going to be the guy that, you know, we look back on and we go, man, it just, to what we were talking about with Cory Sandhagen, right? Timing. 4 or 5 different fights scheduled against Khabib Nurmagomedov. They never happened. And each time that it got canceled, it was for progressively worse things, right? There was a time when Khabib wasn't ready because of the knee. Then it was this thing or that thing or the other thing. And then it's trip over a wire at a photo shoot. And then it's a goddamn global pandemic. Like, we were all ready to have it happen and we were waiting and we were all excited. And then the whole world shut down to stop this fight from happening. Rarely do we ever see, like, he is forever going to be the guy that we reference when somebody goes on a 7-8 fight winning streak and still hasn't gotten the opportunity to challenge for gold, because he won 12 straight fights and he won an interim title in there. Sure. But it went away real quickly, right? It didn't even stick around. He didn't pull a Tom Aspinall and defend it. Tony Ferguson, in his best moments, in his best days, was just a chaos agent. Like, you could, right down to the way that the man tweeted was the best way to encapsulate who he was in the octagon, right? It was caps, it was lowercase, it was no punctuation, it was spelling mistakes, it was champ shit only. It was, this dude was, his workouts were weird and creative to the point that Bilal Muhammad used to like do parody videos of them on X. And like, he just was that dude. I was in attendance for a couple of fights, including the Edson Barbosa one, which was just like, to me, the quintessential Tony Ferguson fight. Because it was just like, we're doing weird stuff and we're all over the place. And then I kicked him in the head when he was on the ground, and that kind of changed the fight. But then I just went bonkers and got after him and bludgeoned him with elbows. He was the best lightweight in the world outside of Khabib for a long time. And probably in another, like, we could replay his career 100 times, and in 99 of them, he probably wins the title at some point. And we just happened on the one timeline where he didn't. Michael Chiesa, on the flip side, somebody that I know quite well, that I have a good relationship with. I think he made the right decision to move to welterweight when he did. He probably could have made it earlier. I really would have liked to have seen what his career at welterweight would have looked like with a little bit longer of a run in that division. Injuries kind of slowed him a little bit. Opportunities at some point. I was in Seattle when he fought Jorge Masvidal. It was a little bit too much too soon. He's an emotional dude. It was a little bit of homecoming. Here we go. Big fight. I know Matt, like, he's a big fight fan too. So we knew the value of that fight at the time. This is long before Jorge Masvidal is Jorge Masvidal. And it just didn't come together. And I think that's kind of the story of things for Mav, is just like another one of these guys that was really good, got every little bit of his ability out to the highest he could get, but there was a ceiling, and you wanted to see it be more, and you wanted to see it be better, but there was just a ceiling, both at lightweight and again at welterweight. Then injuries kick in, then some mistakes happen in fights where he just gets caught. And that to me is why I would like to see this just be the end. He's 36 now. He's been dealing with some back issues for a number of years. He's been dealing with different injuries. He's married. He has the next steps in place in terms of broadcasting and analyst and stuff like that. Go out on a win. This is one that was supposed to happen years and years ago. It finally came together. You snap a 3-fight losing streak. It's quick. It's easy. We're out of there. Both you ride off into the sunset. Go have a beer. See you again. Never. At least in terms of being in the octagon.
Unless it's post-fight interviews. We will move on to what I think was actually fight of the night. I maybe I'm a bit off there, but I really enjoyed the exchanges. I thought both women fought almost to the apex of their ability. Goran Kutateladze and Jordan Vucenic is an absolute screamer of a shout for fighting the night, and I have absolutely no problem there. But Mackenzie Dern gets a unanimous decision over Lupi Godinez. In a similar way to Chito Vera, Lupi Godinez to me is a very frustrating fighter, because I do think that she is much, much, much better than her recent performances have shown. I think the skills that she has are much greater, and her application of those skills are much greater than her last couple of performances have shown. I think for me, the massive difference in this fight was Mackenzie Dern just hits a little harder, and there was a couple of beats where Mackenzie Dern threw a longer combination and landed that longer combination where Lupi threw a 1 or just a 1-2, and Dern was able to absorb them and land greater damage in those exchanges. I thought, when you go up against a elite level black belt world champion, and on the in the standing grappling exchanges, you are just ragdolling her, I think that gives you a level of confidence. Secondarily, when she mounts you and starts to pass off to that S-mount armbar, which is her absolute thing, right? When you defend that, stack her, land some shots, force her to play in that close guard afterwards, that should give you some confidence. So when you see her pulling guard in the second, a jumping guard, sorry, with that overhook, and you sit her down, engage the guard. When you drop her for that brief moment and she's like, yeah, cool, come play, engage the guard. When you're landing that check left hook literally 4,000 times in 15 minutes, give me something that puts Mackenzie Dern on the back foot and then land it. Don't just allow her to make reads as we did at the second half of the second round and again in the third round. Lupi was obviously very confident in that check left hook because it had been landing all night. However, Mackenzie then starts saying, cool, I'm just going to allow you to pull that shot, and then I'm just going to batter you afterwards, right? And there's a moment where Lupi's corner, I heard them screaming over the silence of my usual listening, and it was, you need to throw something else before we get to the left hand, right? And it just never came. It just never came. And I don't know, that third round then at the end where we get the takedown, 3:24 left, ton of time. It just felt like, not that Lupi had resigned herself to losing, but more just that Dern had resigned herself to winning. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, Mackenzie Dern is somebody that more and more I'm gaining an appreciation for who she is and what she does, versus having those frustrations that I have with her of, hey man, you're as good as you are on the ground. I really just wish you knew how to wrestle and get people there and be a little bit more effective on the ground. Lupi's starting to hit that Chito Vera stage of like, I just want more out of you because I can see it. We can all see it. There's goodness there. There's pieces there. I don't know what the hang up is. I don't know what the missing element is. Some people, you never ever figure that out. And she can continue to have a very good career as a 9 through 15 fighter in this division without figuring any of it out. But I agree with you 100%. Like this again, similar to the Vina Jandiroba fight, is kind of there for her if she's just got a little something else, a little bit more confidence in some spots, a little different attack strategy in others. It's right there. Mackenzie Dern is always going to throw hard. She, credit to her, she has figured out, listen, I can crack and I can take a shot. So I'm willing to get in here and get messy and throw these shots. And if we do go on the ground, I'm Mackenzie Dern, so we're fine. I almost want Lupi to develop that same thing of just, I'm okay getting punched. I can land. I don't have the big power, so I need to throw a few more, but I've got all the elements. I just need to trust in them. I just need you to believe in them a little bit more, because she could have won this fight. You could still even make a case that she did win this fight, right? She did good things throughout this fight.
I agree. It's tough. It really is tough. I don't know what we do with Lupi Godinez next. And maybe that's a conversation for another day, but we'll wrap up the main card with just what was the apex performance outside of the main event in Joel Alvarez just decimating Elvis Brenner. it felt to me early in round one that Alvarez worked out pretty quickly that he was the better fighter, but was so aware of just this lit stick of dynamite that happened to be in front of him. And he was like, I'm just gonna fucking figure this out, I think, for a little while, because this motherfucker is a wild dude, and I don't want to get sent to the fucking Shadow Realm here. And it feels like when he throws things, there's a potential that I might go to the fucking Shadow Realm here. And I was just really impressed with how Alvarez played with range. I was very impressed with how he played with switching his stances, how the low kicks came to body kicks, came to high kicks, and then Elvis Brenner had no idea which kick was going where, but he would just end up defending all of them. And then Joel Alvarez is like, lol, not actually throwing a kick. I'm going to scream this right hand into your fucking nose. Halfway through round two, Joel Alvarez breaks Elvis Brenner's nose. He can't stop touching it. He can't breathe out of it. And then the fight just descends into this very, very, very slow myriad of pain that Joel Alvarez outputs on Elvis Brenner until we get to the climax of knees and just brutality that we see at the very, very end. I mean, Joel Alvarez comes out here and finishes Elvis Brenner for the first time, turns away the miraculous recovery that we saw against Goran Kutsaladze in round 3 for Elvis Brenner, and just puts an absolute beatdown, frankly, from start to finish. What do we have for thoughts for Joel Alvarez? Where do we think he stands in this 155-pound division?
I honestly think he should be ranked. And in seeing the announcement that Rafael Dos Anjos is going to fight Jeff Neal at welterweight in each of their next meetings, I think that means you can pull RDA from the rankings. You can move Joel Alvarez in. You can move Paddy Pimblett up one if you would like to 14. Insert Joel Alvarez at 15. And go with your idea from last week of having those two motherfuckers fight. Because let me see it. Right? Alvarez calls out Bobby Green, which is the dumbest thing in the world. It's also like super smart of, let me call out a name, somebody that just got beaten away. And he said like, hey, no takedowns, no nothing. We'll just throw whatever. Go find bigger fish. Should have been a Paddy Pimblett call out. This dude is he's one of those guys to me that I think we forget about because there are often periods of inactivity. The only person to beat him in his last 6 fights is the number 1 contender. And if that's the only guy that you can't get past, well, then things are okay. I love your assessment of the way he approached this fight because I think it's spot on. He went out there early and wanted to put it on Elvis Brenner and just got the read right away of this dude ain't going anywhere easy. I'm hitting him with good shots. I'm looking for submissions. I'm getting after him in the ways that if I'm going to break him quick, this is what's going to happen. And Brenner was just like, oh, this sucks, but let's go. And so he was like, cool. I'll play smart. I'll keep myself out of danger and I'll just keep beating the shit out of you. And then in the third, he was like, I think we got this guy in a position. But again, even there, he didn't rush anything, right? He waits until he gets that moment. And it's, oh, now you're kind of teetering. And now I'm going to make sure that you're out of here. And that's the thing with these guys that have these finishing percentages, right? He's the first to finish Brenner. He is still 100% in finishes, 21 wins, 21 finishes. He sees the opening and he goes, there's just no part of me that's letting you off the hook here. You and I have talked about it for years now that we have been friends, that we have done shows together. Put these people in positions where they are forced to make decisions and the referee is forced to make a decision. And he did that perfectly. Here's all of these knees. Take every single one of them. Okay, we're on the ground. What are you going to do? Are you going to give me a neck? Are you going to give me an arm triangle? Are you going to give me something to latch onto? Can I find a Darce choke in here similar to the first round? No? Cool. Take these shots. I want to go home with my 100% finishing rate. He's somebody that should be ranked. Like looking at some of the other guys that are ranked. Give me him against any of those dudes in the lower third. Give me him versus Dan Hooker. Give me him versus Benoit Saint Denis, Jalen Turner, the battle of the long boys. But the Paddy Pimblett one's the one I want now. You put that in my head. I haven't stopped thinking about it since last week. And now seeing Joel Alvarez do what Joel Alvarez did on Saturday, I want it even more.
Yeah, I mean, it's been the fight for a while, but I think it's now definitely the fight. The only other name I would love, let's say Joel Alvarez gets past Paddy Pimblett, right? Let's just say that happens. Mateusz Gamrot, please. Mateusz Gamrot, please. Please.
I mean, I honestly think that Joel Alvarez has the talent, if he can stay active, stay healthy, avoid visa issues and the different stuff that has plagued him over the years, to be I don't know if he can be top 5, but he could probably be like a 4 through 10 fighter in this division. If you look at some of the guys that are holding on to spots there right now. Joel Alvarez and Beneil Dariush.
Yep, sign me up. I don't mind it. I'm here for it for sure.
Right. Take an old guy. He's kind of hanging on. See what's left. Give Alvarez the shot. I'm not mad at it.
Indeed. We will go to our prelim headliner, and that is Azamat Murzakanov versus Alonzo Menifeld. This one was interesting to me in that Menifeld is a bit of a freak athlete that is doing his best to try and round out his game as much as possible and add some technical elements. It wasn't enough against Azamat Murzakanov, who interestingly came in with that just massive Russian dad strength thing and just pushed Menifeld around with his hands for a while. Like, it didn't feel as though Menifeld really ever got a true opportunity to get into the fight. Like, it was a proper big brothering where Murzakanov has got a bit of a belly, whereas Menifeld is like trim and slick and massive and whatever. And Murzakanov's like, I'm just going to fight you like we're in a pub, basically, mate. And I'm going to club you a bit, and you're not going to get in. And I'm going to be defensively sound, and I'm going to be this awkward, tricky southpaw. And I'm just going to smash you a bit. And then, oh, your eyes are puffy. Well, you know what that means. I'm just going to club you some more now. And then some really lovely knees from Murzakanov. And then eventually, what's insane in this finishing sequence, by the way, is Murzakanov is absolutely fucking bollocks tired. Absolutely bollocks tired. Fails a takedown completely. Menifeld is like, I don't know what's gonna happen. And then he just whiffs hooks for about 6 shots, and then one hits Menifeld, and Menefeld's like, oh no, fuck, no, not now. And Murzakanov's like, thanks, G, and then just wails on him, and we're over. Like, my notes for the finishing sequence say 205 pounds, ladies and gentlemen, 205 pounds.
I mean, I loved everything about this all the way through. Murzakanov and my guy Sergey Nagorny looking like big brother, little brother in there afterwards. One is just a little bit older looking, but they've got the same shaved head, beard, Russian. Here we are. So that was great. This to me, and your assessment of it being the like dude with dad strength and dude that looks like he's a freak athlete, 100%. This is the guy that doesn't look like he should be the better athlete, looks like he should just get steamrolled, being like, yeah, but this isn't bodybuilding. This isn't a physique contest. This is do the things, and I can do the things. They both hit it like right before the finishing blows landed. They each got cracked, and it was coin flip time. And Murzakanov was just like, I got to do the thing better than you here. 1 sec. Whammo. And Menifeld tried very hard to just backpedal and get to safety. And his legs were like, yeah, but we can't keep you up anymore. They're not going to work the way you want them to. So every step you take backwards, we're 1 step closer to, there we go. And he just teetered over. And then the kill shot came, and it was great. Murzakanov, to me, at 15-0 overall and 35 years old. What are we waiting on? And he talked about it in the post-fight. I don't know if you listened to it or not, but he was like, can I maybe get somebody in the top 10 now? And while we're at it, what am I doing on the prelims? And like looked at DC and was like, I shouldn't be on the prelims, right? And DC was forced to do the like, Azamat Murzakanov, ladies and gentlemen, we got to go. This is a dude that like tomorrow you sign him up to fight Volkan Ozdemir. Tomorrow I was going to say tomorrow you sign him up to fight Alexander Rakic, but Magomed Ankalaev is fighting Alexander Rakic for some ungodly reason that I don't know, but probably know. But that's like, just get him in there, right? It's been 2 of these lower third guys in a row, Dustin Jacoby, now Alonzo Menifeld. What's Johnny Walker up to? What's Volkan Ozdemir up to? Like, let's just, right? If he's ever going to do, like, this dude ain't hanging around till he's 42 to be a contender. Stick him in there, see what happens. he either gets beat up or he keeps winning. And we get a cool, like, where's this old dude coming from story. Let's just go.
Indeed. Somebody else that needs to just go, at a slightly, lower clip, sure, but Cory Sandhagen beats Muhammad Yahya. Muhammad Yahya, not a great fighter, probably not UFC quality. Cory Sandhagen, probably not UFC quality either, but we are here, 155, gets him out of there in the first round. Landed some really vicious low kicks, really, really excellent low kicks. I was very impressed. Other than that, it was sort of just average striking. He's just a little bit better than Yahya is everywhere. Low kick to a right-hand swinger, drops him, lands some shots, wheels away in victory. Pretty much all she wrote. Do you have any thoughts on Cory Sandhagen? What do you want to see from him next? Do you think we are of UFC quality?
I think he is of UFC quality. I mean, split decision with Mark Chikasi in his debut, and I think that may have been short notice. I don't recall for sure. Just pulling up Chikasi here, but like to go competitive with Mark Chikasi, a guy that we respect, a guy that we know and like and appreciate what he does. That's a good fight, right? That's a reasonable fight. So I do think he is UFC quality. Obviously a Nova União guy, so I want to see more of him. This is you did the thing that is important to do in these moments. You went out there and you absolutely battered this man that is on the card because it's in Abu Dhabi. He is nicknamed the UAE Warrior. Here we are. Went out, chewed up the legs, both of them. Muhammad Yahya had no choice in how to stay. Every time he switched, you could see him be like, oh man, no, this one doesn't work right. This isn't a good decision. And then he finds the combination to finish him. Did what he needed to do. Let's see somebody of higher quality next and make the assessment in a fight or two.
Fine. Shamil Gadziev and Dontel Mays. I gave you everything I was going to give you at the start. We're going to move on to Goran Kutateladze and the short notice opponent in Jordan Vucenic. Now, we sort of waxed lyrical about Jordan Vucenic on the Severe setup. And, I think a lot of the US audience specifically, definitely the Abu Dhabi audience, does not watch Cage Warriors. They do not know who Jordan Vucenic is. They do not know the fights that he has had, the level that he is at. I think for people that did not know Jordan Vucenic, round one told them absolutely everything that they needed to know. We're going to talk about the scoring because I have I feel like there is an argument to score round two for Jordan Vucenic. Round three, obviously, is a Goran Kutateladze round. I've no problem with that. But I was blown away again. Like I really thought coming in here that Goran Kutateladze was a potential banana skin for somebody like Jordan Vucenic. Upper weight class, Goran's a big man, strong man, heavy hitter, really, really good kickboxer. And Jordan just looked amazing in round one. Absolutely flawless in round one. Very, very good in round two. And then round three, we'll talk about the corner advice shortly, but these things sometimes happen in MMA. I think there's an element where there's probably an adrenaline dump that happened in that corner, right? When he's told you're 2 rounds up, just go out and, do the things. And he's like, oh my God, fucking hell, I'm going to get my first UFC win. This guy's definitely not finishing me, right? I felt the level. He's not finishing me, but whatever fucking happens, I just don't get finished. I don't get 10-8'd. I'm good. And then your focus drops a little. Your intention maybe drops a little bit. We'd have to ask Jordan those questions specifically, but talk me through what you thought. I mean, obviously, we've put you onto Jordan Vucenic for a little while, and so you've gone and you've watched some of the litany of fights in Cage Warriors. Talk me through maybe what your actual realistic expectation was of him coming into Goran Kutateladze and whether that was met, exceeded, underwhelmed in this fight against Goran.
Oh, fully exceeded. Like, to be as good as he was in that first 5 minutes was validation of all the things that you guys have said for years, and validation in my belief that when he goes back to featherweight, he can be a factor. We've seen Morgan Chetier come into the UFC and have some success. Yes, he lost a split decision last time out. Fine. We know the level of this guy. We understand, because we watch all of this stuff and are, I think, pretty fair in our critiques and evaluations of athletes, where these guys stand. And so I thought this was a tough assignment, short notice up a division, and for him to look as good as he looked in the first round and in portions of the rest of the fight, huge marks. I said going in, and this to me was similar to David Onama debuting on short notice against Mason Jones, up a division. You go out, you have a really good fight. Sure, you come out on the wrong side of things, but good Lord, I can't wait to see you back in your natural environments, because whoever is in there with you next is going to get it. And I hope it's a good matchup. I hope it's somebody of the same caliber and level as Guram Kutatelate, because that's what Jordan Vucenic has shown that he merits at this point. I feel really bad, and I think I messaged you this yesterday, of like, I feel just gutted that the cornering and the messaging was the way it was, because I don't doubt for a minute that there's, okay, I'm up 2-0. Jesus, all right, I'm beat this guy. Like, man, 2 weeks ago I wasn't here. 10 days ago I wasn't here. I was, as they said on the broadcast, I let myself have a piece of carrot cake, and then they called and were like, hey man, do you want to go to Abu Dhabi and fight at lightweight against this dude that has a win over Matoish Gamrot? Like, I'm gonna beat this dude. And so I just wish that there was a little bit more, hey man, that one was really goddamn close. So you know what we need to do? Just go out here and make sure that if they gave him that one, we get this one. And not, Jordan lad, you're up, you're 5, just get through this, and then you're like, you could hear it even during the round, even through the close of the second round. He was getting told, just get to the end of this, and then you're up 2-0. And it's like, that's not the thing to say. Even if you are up 2-0, it's probably not the thing to say. I feel bad. I truly feel bad.
So you mentioned, like, when he goes back to 145. May I interest you in either Edson Jr. Barbosa or may I interest you in Sean the Sniper Woodson?
Sean Woodson would be interesting. Barbosa is certainly interested. I'm certainly interested in that. May I counter with a little bit more of a measuring stick sort of in between those two gentlemen and offer Andre Touchy-Feely?
Sure. I think
just somebody that can do a little bit of everything, but isn't. Sean Woodson presents some length challenges.
Yeah.
Right. He is a outlier in terms of preparing for that.
Yep.
Edson Barbosa is a good shout. Like, listen, if they want to do it, I'm not going to say no. Find out right away if this dude can go out and get himself a top 15 win. Sure, sign me up. But if we want to go just a step behind, then an Andre Feely,
Julian
Arosa. I mean, yeah. Listen, Kyle Nelson needs an opponent early September. Calvin Kattar pulled.
Steve Garcia is his opponent.
That's coming together.
Yeah.
Or has come together. Jesus.
Come together. Yep.
Wow. Okay. All right. So yeah, what's Julian Arosa up to? Got a good win in Denver? Sounds good to me. Let's do that. Sadiq Youssef?
I'm super happy for that.
I'd be in on that.
Yep. I'd be in on that too. Yep. No problem with that whatsoever. But either way.
Yeah. I was just going to say, Charles Jourdain?
I'm happy with that. Look, I think now that those last two names, like, I think Jordan Vucenic fucking smokes Charles Jourdain.
So do I.
And I think he smokes Julian Arosa as well.
So the last one I'll throw out is Bryce Mitchell.
Oh, that's a fight. Yeah, that's a fight.
Coming off a loss, but it's a loss to a guy that is now number 5 in the world. It's his first loss in the UFC proper. He lost on TUF. First loss in the UFC proper. Hell of a grappler. Gritty. You know the level. Let's just find out where the epidemic fits in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy with either Mitchell or my original Edson Barbosa, frankly. But
I'll take it.
We'll move on to Sam Hughes, Victoria Dudukova. This was scored a split decision. I did not score it a split decision. I thought round 1 went to Dudukova, and then I thought Sam Hughes won the rounds 2 and rounds 3 pretty fucking easily, to be honest. This was quintessential Sam Hughes, in my opinion, and Dudukova has one weakness, and Sam Hughes found it, and that's the gas tank. Sam Hughes is a very gritty, very grindy, excellent gas tank type of fighter, knows her P's and Q's, has her A game, and just goes out and tries to implement it no matter what. And I thought she looked great in rounds 2 and 3, right? Punished Dudukova for the takedown, used a lovely omoplata setup to get back up, got in her face, grindy, gritty, as I've said. You talked to Sam Hughes before this fight. Tell me what you thought of the performance and obviously of her, full stop.
I mean, it was exactly what she said she was going to do. It's exactly what anybody that has seen Sam Hughes fight or seen Dudakova fight or sort of understood or had a sense of the dynamic of this fight, how they thought it was going to go. We know that Dudakova is really good and really strong out of the gate, but let's see what you got in 2 and 3. Dudakova's last fight was against Jinhyu Frey, who's a teammate, training partner of Sam Hughes. And when we spoke, she was like, man, I know Jin's level, and if she had just gone in that third, I think she wins that fight. And I pretty much agree, right? It was an even fight going in, and the third round decided it. And you could see in that fight that Sam Hughes probably was thinking back to that, of just like, all right, this is what I said Jin needed to do, so I guess I got to come out here and do it. And I got to just be gritty and grimy. And like, Sam Hughes is not a world beater. She is not somebody that is wowing you with physical skills and pretty attacks or anything. She is grimy. That's it. All she's got is heart and toughness and go. And she makes it work against people at this level, right? I think this is the thing that is important to remember. Against Jacqueline Amarine 2 fights back, somebody who's coming in, world champion jiu-jitsu player, but relatively new in UFC or MMA. And Sam just went, you can't keep up. I got things that you can't keep up with. Let's just go. And that was the same with Dudakova. That's what happened here. They figured out exactly what to do. She played to it perfectly. I look at this scorecard of Howard Hughes of 30-27 Dudakova and just like, what are we doing here? Like, you gave her all 3 rounds? Were you just like, I'm in for the Russian? Because I don't know, man. But shouts to Sammy for getting a good win.
Absolutely. We will move on to Jai Herbert and Rolando Bedoya. We sort of talked about this in this setup as both men absolutely needed to win in order to secure their future in the UFC. And Jai Herbert fought like that, and Rolando Bedoya did not. I don't think we should pay too much mind to the cuts opening on Jai Herbert. That man has a lot of scar tissue around his face, a lot of scar tissue. Didn't once look in trouble, didn't once look hurt, rocked, didn't once look wobbled, but just stick behind the jab, stuck behind the jab, worked the body, forced Rolando Bedoya into bad positions, fought well on the front foot, fought well on the back foot. And really, like, this was, I mean, I know it's Rolando Bedoya, and I know that it's not the sort of, movements that you'd expect. And Jai Herbert, I think, coming into the UFC from Cage Warriors, had a lot of hype. Like, he looked fantastic in those Cage Warriors gloves, really sharp, really crisp. And we knew coming in that Jai Herbert's run was going to be a tumultuous one, given that he came in at, I think he came in at 32 or 33, something like that. And coming in at 155 pounds at that age, like, you absolutely need to know where you are and where you're going. Short notice opponent, and Francisco Ronaldo gets whacked. These things happen. Then Renato Moicano is a really tough fight to come in against. Goes and beats Karma Worthy. Then you fight fucking Ilia Topuria, and you're like, well, fucking...
And hurt him badly in the first round.
Really, really badly. Had him on skates. Terrible, terrible, terrible scenes for Ilia Topuria. Manages to turn it around. Does what champions do and wins in the second. Smashes Carl Nelson. Has the draw against Ludovic Klein. Loses to Forrest Siam, who you and I are both pretty high on. Ian, Shawnee, Graham, pretty high on. And then you go out and smash Rolando Bedoya. Like, it's an unfortunate career. Really, this should be a 4-4 in the UFC, a 50-50 split against, there is absolutely no shame losing to Renato Moicano and Ilia Topuria. And this UFC career could be looking different. I think, we've said previously that the Lupa Godinez has a better skill set than her current record shows. And I frankly think Jai Herbert is the same. It's a tough spot given that he's now 36. I don't really know where he goes from here. Probably they stick him around the same sort of positioning, which I think is fine. Let him go and, put maybe a 2 or 3 win streak together, and then let's see where we go at the next London card next year or something similar to that. But I am very happy for Jai Herbert, who has always taken the long road, has always taken the tough fights. And I'm happy to see him get a win here.
Yeah, I mean, this was the best he's looked because he just fought like Jai Herbert. Like, He fought with all of his length. He fought with the, oh, I'm going to bait you into walking onto this stepping knee, which was beautiful throughout the fight. He didn't get stuck along the fence for too long. He didn't accept shitty positions and shitty engagements. He just continued to move and do all the things that he does well. And I would argue that some of it is certainly just, I'm 9 years older than you. I've been in here with some real dudes. You haven't been in here with anybody yet. You're coming down. You got some pressure on you you need to win to stick around. And just make sure that I do the things I can do and get this here victory.
Agreed.
I wish he had come earlier. I wish he had made it earlier. I would like to see him get just continue kind of matriculating it along against guys of this tier. Can I interest you in a Jared Gordon?
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt.
Like just that range. And that's not a knock on Jared, who I'm friendly with and think a lot of, and frankly think he probably beat Nasrat Haqparast last time out. Mm-hmm. But just somebody in that range. Like, let's just keep doing this. Mid-30s guys that are hanging out. I think Drew Dober's maybe a little bit.
Let's not do that.
Too high up. Drew's a little bit too wild and crazy and attacking. But like, there's opportunities here, and let's just keep letting Jai Herbert have some fun.
I agree. Something that wasn't fun at all was Cedric Dumas' performance against Dennis Talulin, and so I'm not going to talk about it.
The only thing I want to touch about on this fight is when it was done, Nate Maness tweeted out, so Dennis Talulin is 11-10 and now lost 4 straight and is 1-5 in the UFC. Is this what you mean by entertaining? And I had to laugh.
Just on that as well, Nate Maness tweeted a couple of hours prior to our jumping together, and has said that he has indeed signed another contract, but it is not with the UFC. He has signed a contract somewhere else. I hope that what that means is the fan outcry forced the UFC to send an offer to Nate Maness, and he has managed to leverage that and go and get some more money somewhere else. I hope that that's what that means, and if that is, fair play to Nate Maness. I hope that you go and get your money, sir. But I do agree. I fucking do agree. I do agree. So that is our fight card. We will be back later on in the week to preview what is an absolutely fucking god-awful card in Marcin Tybura and Sergey Spivak 2. The best fight on that card is the co-main event, and we will definitely talk about that. I will again round us out by saying an absolutely massive congratulations to Mr. and Mrs. Ian O'Neill. I hope that when this comes out, they are still recovering from the hangover that would be day 3 of drinking. You all deserve the happiness that you have gotten. I hope it was a beautiful day, a beautiful ceremony, and that you know that you are loved deeply. From Spencer and I, goodbye. Thank you very much, and we will see you